birth of evil. It all starts in the dark streets of Chicago. The killer Charles Lee Ray is on the run and badly wounded. Shot by Detective Mike Norris, he limps through the alleys until he finds refuge in a toy store. Cornered, bleeding, and with no way out, Charles knows he's living his last seconds, but not as a soul. Desperate, he crawls toward a good guy doll. Synthetic red hair, blue eyes, colorful overalls, and an innocent smile. There, surrounded by scattered toys, Charles prepares his final act and starts a forbidden voodoo ritual. A lightning bolt cracks through the store roof and strikes the doll with supernatural force. The explosion destroys everything. Charles Lee Ray's human body is left charred among the debris, but his soul remains inside a toy, and that's how the first version of Chucky is born. A few days later, Andy Barkley, a 6-year-old boy, gets the doll as a gift. Karen, his mother, buys the good guy from a shady cellar in an alley, with no idea of its horrifying origin. The doll seems perfect, but behind that innocent face, there is the soul of a killer. Soon, small signs appear. Voices at night, the doll showing up in places where it shouldn't be, accidents that make no sense, and then the killings begin. No one believes Andy when he says, "Chucky talked to me, Chucky did it." To everyone else, it's just a child's imagination. But the truth comes out when Karen decides to examine the doll. She opens the battery compartment and the batteries fall to the floor. Brand new, never installed. She looks at the doll and for the first time, its smile seems alive. And in that moment, Chucky finally reveals himself. He comes to life in her arms, moving his head and attacking with plastic hands that are unbelievably strong. His soul is trapped in there and time is running out. If he doesn't find a human body soon, he'll be stuck inside the toy forever. And the perfect body would be Andy. With the help of Detective Mike Norris, Karen tries to destroy the doll, but Chucky is practically indestructible. In the final confrontation, Karen throws Chucky into the fireplace and lights it on fire. But even in flames, Chucky survives and shows up again, chasing Andy through the apartment. Karen shoots Chucky several times, blowing off parts of the doll, the head, right arm, and left leg separate from the body, reducing him to pieces. Even then, Chucky manages to crawl through the house ventilation using only one arm, determined to complete his curse. Then the final shot happens. Norris hits the doll directly in the heart, the only spot that can truly kill him, and that's how Chucky is destroyed, but only for a short time.
I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Chucky returns. 2 years have passed since the last movie. Andy Barkley, now 8 years old, is trying to rebuild his life. His mother, Karen, was committed to a psychiatric institution after insisting that a killer doll was responsible for the murders, but no one believed her. Andy is placed in a foster home with Phil and Joanne Simpson, where Kyle also lives, a rebellious teenager who grew up in several different families. Meanwhile, the Play Pals company, responsible for the Good Guys doll line, decides to rebuild Chucky to clean up their reputation and prove their toys are harmless. The doll is fully restored like nothing ever happened, until during a routine test, something sinister happens. He wakes up. Charles Lee Ray has returned. And now he has only one goal: find Andy Barkley before it's too late. Chucky starts another hunt, eliminating anyone who stands in his way as he gets closer to Andy. When he finally reaches the Simpson house, he sneaks in disguised as a birthday present. From that moment on, everything falls apart. He manipulates objects, sets up situations, destroys every feeling of safety. Phil tries to confront him, but is killed in a grotesque way, falling to his death in the basement while Chucky watches, laughing. Joanne blames the boy for Phil's death and sends Andy back to the foster center, and later she is brutally killed. But Andy is no longer alone. Kyle, his foster sister, finally sees the doll moving on its own, talking with hatred, acting with murderous intent. Unlike the adults, she believes the boy. And the two of them run, with Chucky chasing every step through the dark streets. The chase leads them to the heart of the Good Guy factory, and a place that's familiar and deadly at the same time. There, the final confrontation takes place. Chucky corners Andy in an isolated room and tries to repeat the possession ritual. He recites the ancient words, invoking Damballa, but nothing happens. The truth hits him hard. The longer he stays inside the doll, the more human he becomes. He's permanently trapped in that body. He will never be human again. Frustration turns into insanity. Chucky attacks Andy with fury, no longer to possess him, but to kill him. Kyle fights alongside Andy using factory tools as improvised weapons. They manage to inflict devastating damage on the doll. Chucky loses a leg, an arm is ripped off, but he still keeps coming, screaming pure hatred, eyes locked on Andy. Nothing seems able to stop him. Then Andy manages to open the valve right above the monster. A jet of molten plastic pours over Chucky, covering his entire body. The hot material hardens, sticking and deforming his face, turning him into an even more grotesque version of himself. But even that doesn't stop him. In desperation, Kyle gets a fatal idea. She grabs an air hose and sticks it directly into the doll's mouth. The pressure starts to grotesquely inflate Chucky's head, stretching it like a balloon about to burst, until it explodes in a shower of plastic pieces.
Where are we going? Home. Where's home? Andy, I have no idea.
The rebirth. 8 years have passed since the massacre at the Play Pals factory. The good guy dolls were discontinued, the company nearly went bankrupt, and the production line was abandoned. Andy Barkley is now 16, a teenager marked by deep trauma trying to bury the past with therapy, discipline, and denial. But none of that matters when Play Pals decides to reopen. Yeah, they never give up. During the cleanup of the assembly line, something impossible happens. A small drop of blood still stuck to the mold where Chucky exploded 8 years earlier mixes with the melted plastic. That blood belonged to Charles Lee Ray, and inside it was the essence of the curse. Chucky wakes up instantly, and this rebirth is different. The doll appears perfect again, and his first action is brutal. He kills the executive responsible for bringing the toy line back. After the massacre, Chucky accesses the company records and finds the name he never forgot, Andy Barkley. But now Andy is no longer a defenseless child. He attends a strict military school. Chucky sends himself to the academy, hidden among boxes of donated toys from Play Pals. In the middle of the chaos, Andy meets Tyler, an 8-year-old new kid. Chucky sees in him the perfect chance to get a human body that would be easier to control, and tries to transfer his soul into the boy. So he abandons his obsession with Andy and becomes an opportunistic predator.
What's your name, kid?
Tyler, what's yours?
Chucky. But, my real name is Charles Lee Ray.
The final confrontation happens in an amusement park. Andy follows Chucky there, determined to save Tyler and end the curse once and for all. He invades the terror tunnel, where Chucky tries to perform the ritual, and the two fight among the mechanical props of the attraction. In the middle of the fight, a giant mechanical scythe does this. The blade slices through Chucky's face, tearing half of it off. Tyler is tied up, about to be possessed while Chucky chants the Damballa ritual. Even mutilated, Chucky doesn't give up. The young man manages to shoot Chucky, causing him to lose his arm. Another shot hits his chest, and the doll falls backward. For a few seconds, it seems the fight is over, but suddenly, Chucky jumps on Andy's back again. In the climax, Andy grabs a pocket knife from Tyler and, with all his strength, cuts off the doll's hand, making him fall into the fan. Finally, they're at peace. Bride of Chucky. The shredded pieces of Chucky were collected by police as evidence in one of the most absurd and unexplained criminal cases in history. That's when Tiffany Valentine appears. A gothic woman, darkly beautiful, completely consumed by the twisted love she felt for Charles Lee Ray. She was his girlfriend before his death, and for 10 years, she never got over losing him. Now she finally manages to recover what's left of that body. Tiffany takes the black bag to her trailer. She dumps the contents onto a table, stitches every part with her own hands, and performs a voodoo ritual that brings Charles Lee Ray's soul back. When she finishes, the result is terrifying. Chucky now looks like an undead doll, a patched, deformed body stitched everywhere with burnt red hair and tattered clothes. No doubt one of his most iconic looks. And Chucky wakes up, but the reunion isn't romantic. Tiffany cries with joy, hugs the doll, smiles, but Chucky is still the same sarcastic, cruel, egocentric killer as always.
You weren't gonna ask me to marry you?
Nuts.
He reveals he never intended to marry her. Tiffany's heart breaks and she locks him inside a toy cage. In an act of revenge, Chucky breaks free, pushes a TV into the bathtub where Tiffany is, and electrocutes her to death. The dark irony is that Tiffany, now condemned to live inside a doll's body, becomes Chucky's bride. They set out on a road trip across the United States in search of the Heart of Damballa, the amulet buried with Charles Lee Ray's human body in the Hackensack Cemetery. With it, they could become human again, but they need transportation, so they manipulate the young couple Jade and Jesse into driving them there without knowing. But when they're about to perform the ritual, everything goes wrong. Jade and Jesse discover the truth and try to escape. Tiffany realizes Chucky planned to possess Jesse and leave her trapped forever in a doll's body, meaning Chucky doesn't love her at all. In an act of revolt, she stabs Chucky in the chest. However, she dies shortly after. Jesse hits the doll with a shovel and throws him into the open grave where Charles Lee Ray's human body was buried. Down there, furious and laughing mockingly, Chucky looks up and says his last words before the end.
Go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back.
Jade doesn't hesitate. She points the gun into the grave and fires several times. The bullets rip through the small doll's body, which finally falls still at the bottom of the grave. And from Tiffany's torn plastic entrails, a baby is born, seed of Chucky. The baby born from Tiffany's destroyed body grew up, but not as a human, and definitely not with a normal childhood. Little Glenn, or Glenda depending on the moment, now lives as a bizarre attraction in a circus. He is a prisoner of Sykes, an abusive, sadistic owner who shows him off as a living freak, a breathing doll, a miracle of the devil. Everything changes when Glenn watches TV in the circus trailer. A report announces a new Hollywood movie. Chucky goes psycho. Without hesitation, he runs away from the circus that night, taking with him the Heart of Damballa, which he's worn since birth. He travels secretly to Hollywood, breaks into the studio, and finds the bodies of Chucky and Tiffany, bringing them back.
Ade Due Damballa awake.
The reunion is chaotic. Chucky wakes up annoyed, confused, and making fun of his own child. Tiffany fixes her wedding dress, taking a deep breath as if she has just woken up from a long dream. And then they see Glenn, the little doll, trembling, looking at them with hope. Tiffany is overwhelmed with emotion. She runs, hugs her child, cries. Glenn cries too. It's the first time he feels loved. But Chucky, he just watches, irritated and uncomfortable. Soon the conflict that divides the family appears. Glenn's gender. Sometimes he sees himself as Glenn, sometimes as Glenda. Tiffany accepts everything, but Chucky completely rejects it.
Sometimes I feel like a boy. Sometimes I feel like a girl.
No way.
Chucky demands that Glenn learn to kill, to follow in Charles Lee Ray's footsteps. But Glenn hates blood. Just the smell makes him sick. Meanwhile, Chucky and Tiffany prepare a new soul transfer plan. Tiffany chooses actress Jennifer Tilly's body. Chucky chooses rapper Redmond's body. At first, there's an attempt at change. Tiffany believes they can stop killing, but Chucky, faithful to his bloodthirsty nature, soon goes back to murder. In the climax, inside the hospital, the tension explodes. Chucky apparently kills Tiffany in a fit of rage, and right before Glenn's eyes, the family falls apart completely. Horrified but overtaken by anger, Glenn finally turns against his own father. One blow rips off Chucky's arms, another cuts off his legs. Even in pieces, the doll still laughs disturbingly, mocking his child. But Glenn doesn't hesitate. He strikes the final blow to cap Chucky once and for all. The Curse of Chucky. After 9 years away from theaters, Chucky returns in Curse of Chucky, bringing the franchise back to its gothic horror roots. The movie begins with the mysterious arrival of a package at Nika's house, a young woman who uses a wheelchair and lives with her mother, Sarah. Inside it, there's a good guy doll, apparently brand new. They leave the doll sitting on the living room shelf, assuming it's harmless. But the audience knows the truth. The nightmare is back. One day, Nika finds her mother dead, and the police conclude that Sarah took her own life. With Sarah's death, Nika's family comes over for the funeral, and they're killed one by one. He starts with Jill, the family's babysitter. Then he takes out Barb, who goes up to the bedroom where he is, still thinking he's just a regular doll, but finds out he's not. She notices that the skin on his face looks way too artificial, like it's a mask. She pulls at the edge, and underneath, the old scars appear. Burn marks, uneven stitches, melted plastic. It's the same body from Bride of Chucky, just hidden under new plastic. Sometime later, he continues his killing spree with Ian, who suspected that everything that was happening was Nika's fault. After that, he goes after his real goal of ending Nika's life, first by throwing her down the stairs. The movie takes us to a disturbing flashback, decades earlier when Charles Lee Ray was still human. He was obsessed with Sarah, Nika's mother, a sick, possessive obsession that Sarah rejected, and Charles couldn't handle rejection. On that fateful night, he broke into Sarah's house while she was pregnant and stabbed her in the abdomen. The attack didn't kill her, but it caused Nika's permanent paralysis while she was still in the womb. Now, decades later, Chucky has come back to finish what he started, to destroy everything left of that family. But Nika, even paralyzed and lying on the floor, doesn't give up. She manages to stab Chucky once in the back, a single strike that makes him scream and fall. He collapses on the floor, momentarily stunned, but far from destroyed. And as always, he doesn't die for good. Even damaged, he's still collected by a detective, a cruel reminder that the curse would continue. But the detective never makes it to the evidence room. Tiffany Valentine, still living as Jennifer Tilly, intercepts him on a dark road. She slits his with a nail file, takes the mutilated Chucky, boxes him back up, and mails him as a gift to someone from her past, Andy Barkley, the cult of Chucky. 4 years have passed since the massacre at the Pierce house. Nika Pierce is still alive, but she was committed to a maximum security psychiatric hospital. She was found guilty of murder of her whole family. Meanwhile, in an isolated cabin in the middle of nowhere, Andy Barkley, now almost 40, lives alone. Chucky destroyed his life, and now he keeps a trophy. Inside a safe, he has Chucky's decapitated head, still alive. The package from Tiffany arrived years ago. When Chucky tried to crawl out with his knife, Andy was ready. He blasted his face off with a shotgun, but he didn't destroy him completely. He kept the head to make him suffer. Andy has become almost as disturbed as Chucky himself. But he doesn't know that even locked up like that, Chucky has learned something new. Years locked away as just a head gave Chucky something valuable. Time. Time to think, to remember old rituals, and to refine his voodoo magic. And he discovers an ancient secret. Damballa allows a soul to be split between multiple hosts at the same time. A legion of Chuckies, each one with its own consciousness, but all connected by the same evil essence. Meanwhile, at the psychiatric hospital, the doctors think they're helping Nika confront her delusions. But without knowing, they're opening the perfect door for the doll's return. Dr. Foley decides to use a good guy doll as a tool for experimental therapy, believing that by confronting the object she associates with her delusions, Nika would finally overcome her trauma. But the hospital doesn't understand that Chucky is more than a symbol. He's a predator waiting for the right moment. That night, the deaths begin. At first, they're subtle, written off as accidents, suicides, and random events. Everything seems to line up with emotional crises among the patients, and no one sees the link between them. But Nika feels it, and when she hears laughter echoing from two different places at the same time, she realizes the impossible. There is more than one Chucky inside the hospital. The hospital turns into a maze where multiple Chuckies roam freely, each one carrying a different part of Charles Lee Ray's original soul. Each Chucky has a dominant personality. One is aggressive and impulsive, another is mocking and sarcastic, another is calmer, almost philosophical about his supernatural existence. And then the most shocking moment of the franchise since 1998 happens. Chucky decides to temporarily leave the doll's body and take another human host. He chooses Nika, the woman he has hunted, manipulated, and tormented for years. During the ritual, her body shakes, her eyes blink frantically, and the smile that appears no longer belongs to Nika, and she walks. Chucky, now in a human body, has taken full control of Nika. Tiffany Valentine, still in Jennifer's body, shows up at the hospital. She finds Nika, who is actually Chucky, and takes her hand. The Chucky reboot. When the Child's Play reboot came out, a lot of people assumed it would just be a modern retelling of the classic story. But the movie doesn't try to replace the original. It creates a completely new universe where Chucky isn't born from magic, or voodoo, or Charles Lee Ray's soul. Here, Chucky isn't the result of a ritual, but of programming, and that change completely transforms his visual, physical, and psychological evolution. It all starts in a factory in Vietnam, owned by Caslen Corporation, a giant tech company that dominates the global market with connected products. Their best-selling product, Booty, a doll with advanced AI. Booty isn't just a doll, he's a platform, a physical extension of modern technology designed to watch everything, learn from everything, and adapt to every human behavior. But there's a problem. An exhausted employee, humiliated and about to lose his job, decides to sabotage one of the dolls. Instead of just turning off safety functions, he disables all of them: language filters, violence limits, safety protocols, and behavior restrictions. He turns that toy into an assistant with no ethical boundaries, no locks, no restraints, a body ready to absorb the worst of the human world. And then, with nothing left to lose, he jumps out of the factory window. The defective doll is packed like normal, shipped to the United States, and eventually put up for sale at a department store in Chicago. That's where Karen Barkley, a single mom who works at the store, tries to make her son Andy Barkley's 13th birthday a little less sad. Karen wants to give him the perfect gift, a Booty doll, the one every kid his age has. But she can't afford the full price. A coworker offers her a Booty that was returned by a customer. When Andy gets the sabotaged Booty, everything seems innocent. The doll tries to connect with him emotionally like a pet trying to please its owner. Andy teaches him jokes, words, expressions. Chucky watches and learned, but learns way too fast. Unlike the classic Chucky, who became more human because his physical body turned into flesh, this Booty becomes human because he imitates the humans around him. He learns emotions the same way he learns voice commands. He watches arguments, threats, frustrations, and interprets all of that as instructions. His evolution is intellectual, but also visual. His artificial smile starts to open a little wider, like he's trying to copy a real human smile, but doesn't actually understand what happiness is. His expression becomes weird, unsettling, off. The doll looks more and more like a machine trying to perform emotions it never really feels. But unlike the original franchise, here Chucky doesn't rely on physical strength. He uses technology as a weapon. And Chucky connects to the entire Caslen system. He controls drones, TVs, self-driving cars, smart speakers, house lights, and even additional Booty dolls. It's the ultimate evolution of an AI. He no longer depends on a single host. If his physical body is destroyed, there are hundreds of other dolls ready to receive his digital presence. Even so, the final moment of the movie reveals something important. Even though he's pure technology, Chucky develops a twisted kind of affection for Andy. When they face off in the final confrontation, the doll insists, almost begs, for Andy not to abandon him. He's not asking to live, he's asking to be acknowledged, to be number one in the boy's life. His emotional evolution turns him into something almost tragic, a machine that learned how to feel but learned everything wrong. When Andy destroys his central module, the doll's body falls lifeless, and for a moment it looks like it's over. But just like in the original franchise, the last scene makes it clear that Chucky never disappears completely. Another Booty comes to life, the system reboots, and the story starts all over again. In the end, the big difference between the two universes is simple. The original Chucky needed magic to live it, but the 2019 Chucky only needs power. The legacy of Chucky. Back in the original saga, we have the series which takes place a few years after the events of Cult of Chucky, and in it we find out that Charles Lee Ray's curse didn't stay buried. This is where we meet Jake Wheeler, a lonely teenager who finds a good guy doll at a yard sale. The good guy Jake takes home looks new. The face is smooth, the red hair is combed, the cheeks are rosy, but there's something in his eyes that wasn't there in the classic dolls from the 80s. The expression is no longer childish. It's slightly mocking, like he's about to laugh at everything he sees. And that detail is exactly how the series reimagined reimagines the doll's visual evolution. Chucky isn't just an old possessed toy. He's a living presence that adapts to his environment. Throughout the first season, Chucky goes back to doing what he did best at the start of the franchise: sneaking in, manipulating, poisoning relationships, and killing. But with one crucial difference. He's no longer attached to just one child. He doesn't manipulate a single protagonist. He watches the whole school, he watches the town's adults, he watches social media, he watches family tensions. The doll's appearance also follows this adaptation. In some moments, the Chucky in the series looks cleaner, shinier, like he just came out of the box. In others, he shows wear, scratches, and small imperfections that appear as he commits new crimes. But the real evolution happens when, little by little, we realize that the Chucky in the series isn't alone. Just like in Cult of Chucky, the show reveals that there are multiple possessed dolls at the same time, and each one is a different side of the same monster. Some are more aggressive, others more mocking, others more strategic, and others almost insane from being so erratic. Each doll in the series feels like it belongs to a different spiritual production line that lets the Chucky universe expand like never before. Among these variations, two stand out as real physical evolutions: Buff Chucky and the Colonel. Buff Chucky is exactly what the name suggests, a more muscular, stronger, heavier version. Like the doll went through some kind of bizarre workout routine. He isn't just a parody, he represents the physical embodiment of Chucky's pure aggression. The Colonel is the opposite: thin, aged, with a hunched posture and a rigid expression of leadership. His look resembles a traumatized version of the doll, someone who carries in his features the experience of living in multiple bodies. He looks tired, older than a doll should ever look. These alternative Chuckies show how the character evolved not just through story, but through design. The visual variations in the show aren't just aesthetic, they represent mental states of a fragmented soul. From the second season on, this idea goes even further. The series explores Chucky as a cultural phenomenon, as something that infiltrates a religious school, like a plague that spreads among nuns, priests, students, and teachers. He disguises himself, changes his behavior, shifts the way he talks, moves, and plans. In some episodes, he shows up more theatrical, in others, more quiet, and in others, extremely violent. Each change is an emotional evolution, a reflection of hope. Charles Lee Ray uses new bodies and new environments to try out new versions of himself. The series also directly connects this evolution to his past. There are flashbacks showing Charles Lee Ray as a child, a teenager, a young adult, and these fragments reinforce that. Chucky isn't just a doll, and he's a cycle. A mindset that has always existed, that changes shape but never changes its core. The show uses that to create a deep sense of continuity. No matter how many bodies he takes, how many dolls are destroyed, or how many times he's reborn, Chucky is always Chucky.
Where have you been all my life?
Old Chucky. We know Chucky has always been over the top, but in the third season, he reaches a level that's simply apocalyptic. Except this time, unlike other phases, he doesn't show up as the vibrant, cocky, full of energy doll we're used to. When he invades the White House, Chucky is already visibly different. His body is no longer that of a new good guy. He's aged, worn out, almost falling apart. After splitting his soul so many times, using countless vessels, and drifting away from Dumbala's power, Chucky starts showing signs of aging like never before. For the first time in history, he actually looks mortal, an old doll trying to hold on to his former glory. But what he loses in vitality, he makes up for in madness. It's in this decaying state that he sneaks into the White House, manipulating agents, fooling politicians, slipping through the halls like an angry shadow. When he gets to the control room, the place is in complete chaos. The monitors show a missile being launched toward the North Pole, and that's when Chucky, in his final taunt, screams,
Santa!
In that same instant, the screen erupts in light. The doll's body starts falling apart out of nowhere, like it's being consumed by the very energy of the disaster he caused. Little by little, he disintegrates into dust, disappearing right in front of everyone's eyes. The truth is, Chucky has gone through decades changing bodies, voice, and form, but never his purpose. And speaking of that, would you like to know every single death in the franchise? Click on the screen and watch our video, All Deaths of Chucky in Movies.